Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut this asymmetric neckline princess dart underbust blouse. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements for this pattern, which includes my shoulder to bust line, which is 9, shoulder to underbust, which is 12, shoulder to waist, which is 17, and I added 5 inches extra after my waistline. So for this dress, we are making use of a bust dart. Next, I'm going to mark the shoulder divided by 2, and I'll add half because one part of this dress has a sleeve. So for the other side that doesn't have a sleeve too, we'll still be using that 7.5. I'll come down by 1 inch here and I'll place and draw my shoulder slope. So for that part that doesn't have a sleeve, the extra ½ inch will be serving as a sewing or turn up allowance. Next, I'm going to mark the center of my pattern paper at the neckline. Go ahead to mark my chest line. To get that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I drew out a line at that point, and whatever I have on the shoulder, I will mark back at that point, place my ruler, connect, and I will draw a straight line. So after I'm done drawing that out, I'll go ahead and I'll place my tape at that point and I'll fold this over. Then I'm going to mark. From that point, I'll be coming in by ½ inch. After I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at this point. So after I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead and place my ruler, connect from the shoulder to the armhole and to my bust circumference. Next is to mark your dart, and to mark my dart, I'll go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches, divided by 2 I have 3.5, and I marked it starting from the bust down to the top length. After that, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'm going to connect and draw out a straight line. Now I'll be marking out my dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. So if you're a plus size, you'll be making use of 1.5 inches on both sides. That is a total of 3 inches dart. So after that, I'll go down by 4 inches at this point. So you can go ahead to use a straight down. That is the dart intake you used on your waist. Go ahead to take it to the lower part. But for this pattern, I'm just going to go ahead to use these dart lines. So now I'll place my curve drill connecting from the bust down to the underbust, and I'll go ahead to repeat this at the other side of my pattern paper also. After I'm done connecting at this point, I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker and I'm going to mark this all out. So after I'm done marking out, at the armhole part, I'll be dividing it into 2. This is to go ahead to create the princess dart effect. At this point, I'll fold my tape, mark, and from that point, I'll go ahead to connect to this point. After I'm done connecting, I'll be marking ½ inch on both sides and I'll connect it down to the initial line and connect to the other side. So after I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this part of my pattern. So I'll also reconnect this. So from this part, this 1 inch dart intake, I will go ahead to extend it. So how we got there, 1 inch is ½ inch on both sides, and I'll reconnect it back to my armhole. So after I'm done doing that, I'll go ahead to mark my body measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So that intake of 1 inch at the armhole, I'll replace it and add my sewing allowance. Going down to the underbust, I'm going to mark the underbust circumference divided by 4. So after marking that, you're going to also measure this dart intake you have here. Go ahead to replace it and you'll be adding your sewing allowance. So after this, you'll be moving over to the waistline. Mark your waist circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake and you're going to go ahead to replace it and then add your sewing allowance. Here, you're going to mark your hip circumference divided by 4. After that, you add your sewing allowance because there's no dart intake at the lower part of that pattern. But if you have a dart intake, maybe you used a straight dart, go ahead to replace your dart. So I'm going to connect starting from the bust to the underbust to the waist and to the top length. So after marking this out, I'm going to go ahead to replace this measurement at the other side of my pattern paper also. So after I'm done connecting, I went ahead to mark out the same measurements on the other side of my pattern paper, and I did that offline so that this will be easier and faster. So from that point I marked at the neckline, I'll go out by 4.5 inches on both sides. So from here I'll go down by 2 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to connect this, creating like a curve. So I'll just go ahead and I will slant down, creating like a little curve. So from here I'll come down by 6 inches and I will connect to this point. After connecting to that point, we are going to work on the other side. From here I'll come out about 2.5 inches and I'll create like a curve. So I initially outlined this point so that it will be easier for me to know what I'm doing before marking out, because if you look closely you notice I have lines there. At the underbust I'll be going up by 1/2 inch on both sides before drawing out the basque area or the design at the underbust. Here I'll be slanting this all the way to the midpoint of the pattern. After my underbust I went down by 1.5 inches. You can also use 1 inch. Here I'll also blend this, having in mind exactly what I have on the other side, and I'll go ahead to connect this to the other end of my pattern. After I'm done connecting this at this point, I will go ahead to use my marker to outline this to make it more visible for you to see. So I will also go ahead to outline the upper part of this pattern so we can go ahead to work on the next part of the pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, please hit on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Leave your comment at the comment section, and if you have a question, also leave it at the comment section. So now I'll be marking my bust dart, which is 1.5 inches. So how did I get this 1.5 inches? To get your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. My shoulder to waist in front is 17 inches. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. So the difference is 1.5 inches. That is why I'm using that for my dart. For the lower part, I'll be coming up by 1.5 inches on both sides. At the center, I'll come down by 1.5 inches. You can use 2 inches also. This is to create the slight basque effect we have at the center of the pattern, and I'll connect it to the waistline and also connect it to the other side of the waistline. So this is what I have on this point or at this part, and I'm done drafting this out. The next part we'll be cutting out is also the collar piece of this dress, which is at the upper part of the dress. So after I'm done cutting out, this is what my pattern looks like, or I'm done marking, this is what it looks like. Now we're going to move over to work on the collar piece. I'll just go ahead to place my pattern paper to trace out the neckline first. After I'm done tracing it out, I'll bring out the pattern paper and I'll follow what I have there. So after drawing it out at the point I have that curve, I'll extend it more because it's also going towards the armhole area, and the upper part of the collar you can use up to 2.5 to 4 inches. So I'll just go ahead and trace this out, and after tracing it out, I'll place it on top of the neckline just to show you what it looks like. So after I'm done cutting it out, and this is what we have on this side. So at the back pattern, I don't know whether the collar cuts across, but I'm just going to basically leave it this way. So after I'm done cutting out, this is what I have, and next I'll go ahead to cut out the full pattern of this dress. So if you haven't yet subscribed, just like I said, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. So you can also follow me on my other YouTube channel, which is Marcus Closet. There we do both drafting and sewing tutorials. And if you have any question regarding this pattern illustration, please also leave it at the comment section, and I'll just go ahead and cut out the rest of my pattern. So for the dart part of this dress, also remember to blend it off, or you can cut it and tape it up. So this is what I have, and next we'll be moving over to the back pattern. Now to move over to the back pattern, here is my back pattern and I've gone ahead to cut it out. The only difference between the front and the back is that I have a zipper of 1.5 inches in front. You can also use 2 inches for your zipper, and my shoulder to waist for the back is 15.5 inches. After that, I added the same 5 inches I added for the length of the blouse for the front pattern. Now I'll mark my dart intake. Now to mark my dart intake, I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll go ahead to mark it all the way to the lower part of my pattern. After I'm done marking that, I'll place my ruler and I'm going to connect, drawing out a straight line all the way to the lower part. After I'm done drawing that out, I'll be marking a dart intake of 1/2 inch on both sides. Now I'll come down by 4 inches. After that, I'll be coming down by 1 inch from the bust point, and I will connect from that point all the way to the upper part. Repeat it at the upper part of the dress, at the other side, and then I'll extend my dart all the way to the lower part. So later I'm going to use my marker to make my dart visible at the back. So next, you want to divide your armhole into 2 by creating that princess dart effect in front of your dress, also at the back. But here we'll just come out with 1/2 inch just for the side to meet up together when you're joining. That is the reason why we added extra 1 inch in front at the armhole part, so that the side we have at the center front and the side at the side front will meet. Now I'll just go ahead and use my marker to outline the rest of my pattern to make it more visible for you to see. So after I'm done marking this, next is to insert my body measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Mark my hip circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance. Now I'm going to connect from the bust down to the waist, or from the waist to the bust, and connect to my hip point. So after I'm done connecting this is what I have, and I'll still go up by 1.5 inches just like we did for the front pattern, and I will connect this. So after I'm done connecting, I'll outline the upper part of my pattern, and here I'll be marking out my neckline. So for my neckline, I used that same 4.5 inches. So for the depth, I used 1 inch or 1.5, any measurement of your choice there, and I'll connect. So here's my back pattern almost ready. To take out the bulginess at the back, I'll come in by 1/2 inch and go ahead to extend this all the way up and extend it to the lower part. So after this, I'm done cutting the back pattern because I didn't get to see what is exactly at the back. So I don't know if the collar extended to the back, but this is a basic back pattern for the dress. So also for the sleeve of this dress, it is a basic short sleeve. So I have tutorials where I drafted out sleeves, so you can also check that out. It's actually the same process. The only difference is that the sleeve here is shorter. So after this, I'm done with today's tutorial. If you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also join us in our next video. Thanks.